Hello, ma'am. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Yeah.
So let's start this podcast by knowing you. So I would be really glad if you can introduce yourself to our audience.
Okay. My name is Sarah Fullmer. I am an American Norwegian. I moved to Norway 9 years ago and recently got my citizenship, so now I'm both. And I worked for a very long time as a engineer and then mobile developer and tester. And now, as of 3 weeks ago, I started a new job as a contractor to Google to help with the Flutter community. So I've transitioned away from coding and technical work and more into community management, which is very different, but also very enjoyable. I'm actually really liking my new job. So
that was a great introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess you're wondering about my journey to Flutter. And
yeah.
So I worked as an Android developer and tester for several years, and the company I was working for, they decided to transition their native app to Flutter, and they did. I wasn't actually involved with this. They had some other people doing like tests of different kinds of technologies. So they tested React Native and Flutter and some other things, and they decided to go with Flutter. And so it sort of came down from on high. You will now rewrite the app in Flutter. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't even know what this is. But then I tried it, and it was amazing, and I was so happy for the decision. And actually, I was a consultant for that company, and I liked Flutter so much that I decided that I wanted to work full-time at it instead of continuing to be a consultant, because I knew that my consulting company would drag me off and put me on a new project soon, and that it would not be Flutter. So I jumped ship and switched to be full-time at the company so I could keep working as a Flutter developer, because I was really enjoyed it, which sounds strange, but it was such a delight after, it was just so nice. So that's how I got into it.
That was awesome to know, because I was just so curious to know what got you started into Flutter and why you switched from Android to Flutter.
Yeah, maybe I'd heard about Flutter, but in my mind it was some beta project that wasn't something worth looking at, because I don't want to spend time learning new things that are in beta. But then actually it was quite mature at the end of 2019 when we started looking at it, and it was great. So, yeah. And it's just gotten better and more stable. They just released 2.5 yesterday, and there's a lot of good things in there. So, yeah. But I can't take the credit for getting our company into Flutter, because that was mostly Majid, actually. I think you interviewed him earlier, because I was Majid's coworker until 3 weeks ago. We both worked at the same company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Sort of. It's a huge company, so we weren't on the same team, but he was the one that convinced the bosses to go with Flutter, I think. So I'm very grateful for that.
And I would also like to ask you, what got you started into programming? Are you from a programming background, or is there something else that inspired you?
So unlike you, who has started programming at a very young age, I didn't get into it until university. It just wasn't even on my radar as something to do. I was always just, my parents encouraged me to do things with the arts and writing, and everyone thought I was going to be a writer when I was younger, or maybe a dancer. That's a whole different story. I just sort of on a whim took a intro computer science class at my school, and I really liked it. And I went to this college in the U.S. where it's a bit more flexible than a lot of other schools, where once you declare a major, you have to, there's like a set of classes you have to take, and those are the only things you can take, and you don't have time for anything else. At the school I went to, you were encouraged to do things outside of your major. So even though I ended up declaring a major in East Asian Studies, very employable, by the way, highly recommended. I had the opportunity to, on the about 50% of my classes, I could just take what I wanted. And I was so into that intro computer science class that I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just took a bunch of like electives. Like I took intro physics and a bunch of math classes, and I almost thought about becoming a double CS major, but then I don't know. The advanced math scared me away, to be honest. So I just stuck to Japanese, East Asian studies, and took these electives on the side. But then I got out of school, and I was having a really hard time finding a job. Because the thing I said earlier about East Asian studies being a great major is not actually true at all. It's really good if you want to get a PhD in it and then be an academic, but that was not something I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, I need to go back to school and do something more employable. I actually have all of these basic like math and science and computer science classes that I've taken, so maybe I can do something with that. So I wasn't quite qualified to get a master's degree because they wanted people with like a computer science major to do a computer science master's. So what I ended up doing was getting a second bachelor's degree, but it only took me 2 years to finish because I'd done so much before. And I didn't go for computer science. I ended up going for aerospace engineering, which was because I had a friend who was he was getting a PhD in aerospace engineering, and he knew that I really liked, he thought that I would enjoy it, and he just convinced me basically to try it. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but this sounds cool, and I like science fiction, and I want to work for NASA. That sounds awesome. So I got a degree in aerospace engineering, and then did not get a job at NASA because they basically want you to have PhDs to work there, or a master's. But anyways, I was done with school. I was like, no more school for me. So the only job I could get was in defense, which I did, and not for me. So I eventually went back to school, and I don't know, long, winding, meandering. My life is a bit like this, like, East Asian studies, aerospace engineering, innovation and entrepreneurship. So I don't know. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I just did what seemed good at the time, I guess. So, yeah.
It happens with many of us. We are not aware of what we have to do.
Yeah. I didn't have any master plan to be where I am. I just sort of did what interested me and seemed like it would be, would provide me with enough income to enjoy my life. So, yeah. Like, I still want to be a writer, right? But I'm not going to be a writer because I like to eat and I have children. So, being an engineer or a developer, a community manager, these are also interesting things that I like doing. Yeah.
It was a very interesting journey to know.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess a part of me wishes that I had gotten into it earlier, because I know that the people that start when they're in their teens are usually just so much better. Like, you can catch up, but it's a lot harder. And I had to work really, really hard to catch up, and honestly, I don't think I ever really did. So I'm happy to be in community management now. So, what else did you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have so many questions prepared for you.
I don't know if we have time for the ball, but yeah, let's do what we can. What else would you like to talk about?
Yeah, so I want to know your journey of learning Flutter and your major takeaways from it.
Sure. So, as I said before, I was sort of instructed from my bosses, you need to learn Flutter now because we are going to rewrite the apps in Flutter. And it was recommended to us to do the Angela Yu Flutter Bootcamp. So that was my starting point. And I thought it was great, actually. It was a really nice introduction. She helped you get set up and taught you a lot of the shortcuts. It was Android Studio based, which I don't know, if you already use VS Code, maybe that's annoying, but most of it was just focused on the Flutter itself. So it was a really just nice introduction to the platform. And I mean, I'd already been a developer for some years, so there were some parts I could skip, but she was also very clear. She was like, if you know how to code from before, skip these lessons because you don't need to learn about for loops or whatever. So she did just a really nice job with the content. And then after that, I sort of in parallel to that, I was also like reading the Getting Started official docs, which are a must, and the widget of the weeks on YouTube are amazing. And I should say that all of this is done in parallel with like just building toy projects, right? Like you just have to keep building things and trying. You think, oh, I want this feature. How do I do it? And then you look it up, and then you learn how to do it by doing it, right? So, I started. It was nice to start with the hand holding of the course, but then after that, to do some like little side projects where I could apply concepts and just really get them in my brain so they were more easy to access, and I knew it was possible. So yeah, just building things and using the official documentation. Like, of course I'm going to say this because I work there now, but it's really good. it's really, really good. So I would just say do the bootcamp, or there's some other, that was back in 2019. There's a lot of other ones now that you can do. So do some kind of course, and also in parallel, go through the Getting Started stuff on the Flutter page, and there's some cookbooks there with showing you how to do different commonly used features. And also the code labs are good. If there's something specific you want to do and there's a code lab in that topic, I can highly recommend doing that because they're kept up to date and they're really well done. So yeah, just get your hands dirty and keep coding, I guess. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you. That were some of the great resources.
Mm.
And I'm glad that I have to started with Angela Yu's course.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. Yeah, she was a good place to start. I was already using Android Studio from before, so it was like a very gentle transition. I actually use VS Code now, but in the beginning it was good. Yeah.
And what would you have wished that if you have known could have fastered the learning process?
That's a really good question. I have been constantly learning new topics for basically my whole career, right? At least until now. Until 3 weeks ago, I was a technical person, and so I was constantly updating myself with new concepts and technologies. And I would say that I've sort of learned how to learn. And so by the time I came to Flutter, I sort of had a process down that I like, but I would share with you that the process is about building things and actually coding. Like, don't think, oh, I must understand these concepts perfectly before I apply them, or think, oh, I must learn Dart before I can do Flutter. No, you just start doing something, and then as you go, you will build your knowledge up. And yes, there will be gaps in your knowledge. You will fill them in as you need. And that's just, you just sort of scaffold your way up from building what interests you as well, I think. Because when I was younger, I was very like sort of idealistic, and I think, okay, I must have these fundamental concepts in place before I can apply them. And it's like people's brains don't actually work that way, or at least mine doesn't. And I think it's more practical and time efficient to just maybe take an intro course to sort of understand the landscape, but then after that, just do it. Just build, I think.
Yeah. So here's a quick reminder to the audience who are watching or listening to this show. Take your copies and note down these tips and make sure to follow, because it's going to save your ton of time.
Yeah, learn from my years of being idealistic and trying to get concepts first that are only useful once you apply them. So just go jump in, I would say.
So when did you got your very first job, and what was it?
Oh gosh. Was I 15 or 16? I don't know. Around there, I worked at a pool. So I was the person that would like take your money when you came into the pool and let you in and give you your little wrist bracelet that you could wear for the day so we know you belong there. That was my first job over the summer when I was a teenager. Yeah. That was not at all applicable to anything I've ever done since. I did learn how to take care of a pool. I wasn't actually a lifeguard, but I was the person that took care of the chemicals and made sure that it was clean. And it's a long time ago.
Okay, I was expecting you would say that you were assistant language teacher.
Oh my god, yeah. Okay, so you looked at my LinkedIn profile where I put my relevant or professional work experience. Yes. You probably didn't want to know about how I was a pool assistant when I was 16. Fair enough. I was a assistant language teacher in Japan for 1 year. As you may recall, I was an East Asian studies major with a focus on Japan in college, and I needed a job, and that was the job I got. And it was a fine job for a 22-year-old, but there's nowhere to go from there. Like, I could have done that for 3 years maybe, and then I would still be in the same place. So that's why I decided to go back to school instead of just keeping doing that. It was a great year though. Osaka's a wonderful city. Such good food. And yeah, so I taught English to Japanese middle schoolers for 1 year before going back for my second bachelor's. And that was a lot of fun. I still have friends from that period, and yeah, it was great, actually. Very memorable. But not at all relevant to my career after graduation in any way. Just, I guess, I'm really glad I did it because it made me more international in a way. Like, I could appreciate different cultures more, and I learned how to cook some really good Japanese food. Yeah.
So does that mean you know Japanese too?
I was okay. I was passable verbally in 2006, 2007, but I haven't used it since then, so no. Not anymore. But yeah, I studied it in school for 4 years, and then I lived there for a year, so I was okay at it. But the writing system is crazy. So even though I had a pretty advanced speaking level, I think my writing level was like a fourth grader or something. I'm so glad I did it. Actually, it was just a delightful life experience as a young person, I think. Yeah. There's a lot of people that go straight from like school to fancy corporate job or whatever, and like that's fine, that's good, but I feel like maybe it's nice to get some other life experiences as well.
Yeah. So you have both the experience of internship and jobs too. So from both starting from junior to senior, so how do you look up for opportunities and what do you think contributed the most?
I would say it was so hard to get my first job, to be honest. And okay, wait, that's not true. My engineering job I got at a career fair when I was in school. But after moving to Norway and trying to get a job here, it was really, really hard to get my first full-time job. And the way I got it in the end was because I had been just networking like crazy, like just meeting people and helping, volunteering places. I worked in a startup incubator, and I just met a lot of the people there, and I was tapped into the startup community in Oslo because I had done this innovation in entrepreneurship master's degree, so I was doing a lot of work with the startup community, and I got my first Android developer job because someone I knew, or someone who knew me and knew this other guy, connected us because they needed an Android developer. And I had been learning Android development, and so then it just sort of happened, but it was completely luck, honestly, and it was just because I'd spent the time growing my skills so that someone would refer me like this, and then also meeting people. But I think if I had been the best Android developer in the world, if I hadn't known people, I wouldn't have gotten the job. So all I can say is if you're shy, I don't know, get over it. Like, just get out there. Or not, don't get over it, but just challenge yourself to meet people, because that is probably how you're going to get your foot in the door. I don't know. That was my experience. And I think I know a lot of people that went that way, where their first job was just like a word of mouth referral, and they knew someone who knew someone that knew that they were good or growing. So that job was actually a disaster because I thought I knew Android development, but I had never done a production app before, and I was making like a production app, and so I had to learn so much so quickly, and I was the only Android developer on the team. It was like me and an iOS guy and a designer, and so I had no one I could ask for help, and I was just a junior, and they were giving me big, like, senior level responsibilities. So that was hard. I don't recommend that. Start someplace where you can have a mentor, I would say. Grow. Or start as a intern someplace where they don't expect you to produce production level code from day one. Yeah. Go for it. Yes, I would agree with that. And it's a bit sad, right? Because you want to think, oh, the person who is the best skilled at the job is the one that should get the job. And to an extent, yes, absolutely. The person with the the skills should get the job. But also, it's a question of being in the right place at the right time, and networking helps with that. And also, a lot of places don't want to go through like a hiring process is really, really expensive and time consuming for companies. And if you're a small company or a startup especially, you might not have the resources to hire like a recruiter or just interview and go through a million resumes. So they prefer to do it this way. And so I think a lot of smaller places, at least, it's more word of mouth. If you want to work for a bigger place, it's you have to go through the whole process, of course. But for smaller places, networking is key for sure.
And also a big congratulations on becoming Flutter Community Manager.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was, I'm still in shock that this is what I'm doing with my life now, but I'm very happy to have this role.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you. So we would like to know your role as community manager for Flutter and what got you into Google and how it all started.
Okay. So, first, I need to clarify that I am not a Google employee. Google has like a core workforce of 120,000 people that are actual Google employees. And then on top of that, they have something called TVCs, temporary vendors and contractors. And there are, I don't even know, like 150,000 of us, or maybe even more. I know that there's more TVCs than actual employees. So I'm a TVC. I work technically for a third-party hiring firm. And basically, even though every day my full-time job is doing work for the Flutter team, I am not technically a Google employee. I did not go through the famous Google hiring process to get this role. I went through a different parallel process that is, I still had to interview and everything, but didn't have a 5-hour on-site or something crazy like that, like you hear about with the regular Googlers. So, okay, how did I get this role? I got lucky, honestly. I started getting into community work last year during the pandemic. I sort of stumbled into it. Again, I have to give credit to Majid. He sucked me in somehow. I don't even remember. And I really enjoyed it. I think partially because I was very lonely. And because the pandemic was a lonely time, right? And the community work sort of let me connect with people, and I really enjoyed that. And then I was having struggles at my regular job because even though I left Flutter, there was some unrelated team issues, and so doing community work was like this wonderful soothing escape for me. And I got really, really into it. I organized several conferences, or helped to organize. I was not the key person, but I was helping significantly with several conferences and some little one-off events. And then I guess as a result of this, I was made aware of this job opportunity, and I applied. So here I am. I got lucky. I'm assuming there were many other qualified candidates, but I got the job. So I'm so grateful, and I really enjoyed my new position because I am not coding anymore, which is a little sad, but I get to I get to talk to people all day, which I also really like doing. So, I'm happy in my new position.
So also you can also explain a little bit about your role as community manager.
Yes, right. It's a very broad term, right? And it can mean different things in different places. But currently, my job is to put together a new program for creating resources and support for Flutter meetups around the world, because there are a lot of them. And we are going to offer them support in various ways, like some swag and tutorials and different things. So that is my new role, is to put this program together and kick it off and then maintain it. So if you run a Flutter meetup, you will be hearing from me soon. Basically.
Okay, that was interesting.
But there's lots of, like, Nilay, who is my boss, and she is sort of the head Flutter Community Manager. She does so many things more than I do, and I'm hoping to help her more and more as I get into my role. But being a community manager is like, sometimes I'm meeting people, sometimes I'm going through spreadsheets, sometimes I'm sending emails. It's very it's a lot more diverse actually than being a programmer, where I was just programming all the time, basically. Which I realize is quite privileged now that I understand a lot of people spend their time in meetings all day, but I used to just code all day. So this is very different, and I quite like it. It's nice to get some diversity. Yeah. So.
Okay. And Nila is awesome too, and
Yes.
she's also going to come next on the show.
Great. Yes. Oh, Nila is the best. So, and I'm sure she'll have a lot more to say about community management, because this is new for me. Like I did community work before, but it was sort of on the ground level, and now I'm more at like a strategic level, and it's different. So she will probably have a lot more insight into that, because she's been doing it and rocking it for years. So you should ask her about being a community manager.
And I would also like to know your one piece of advice in terms of career perspective for someone into Flutter.
Just keep learning, keep practicing. If you like Flutter, then do it. If you don't, then do something else. I think Flutter has a great future. I've joined this team because I really believe in it, and I think it's just going to keep growing. So you're not going to waste your time learning Dart and Flutter. It's just going to get better and better. And the job market is growing. There's a bit of a disconnect between people looking for Flutter jobs and aspiring Flutter developers, and I'm not really sure how to fix that connection problem, but I guess just put yourself out there, have a GitHub profile with your projects and show them off, and keep building.
So now let's have some rapid questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Your preferences on IDs like VS Code, IntelliJ, or Android Studio?
VS Code.
Okay. And what's your favorite package?
Oh, I really like Flutter Block.
I was also going to ask next question, like what was your favorite state management solution?
Okay, well now you know. I like both. I like both Block and Provider. I haven't tried RipperPod. I really need to, but I hear it's great. So, thanks.
And I think we should now come to more deep questions, like that would add a lot of more value to developers' life.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Okay. So health is such an important factor, but mostly we neglect it. So what's your take on it?
Don't neglect it. It's very important. I alluded to this earlier, but I burned out earlier this year because I was just working too much, honestly. And I have 2 small children, so I was working all the time. Like, if I was awake, I was either working or taking care of children or doing a side project or doing community work or something. And you do that for too long, and I hit a wall. I shut down. I was on sick leave for a few months. It was awful, to be honest. And I will not be making that mistake again. So now I would recommend that people get a job where you can learn as part of the job, so that you don't have to just be working all day and then go home and keep learning, because continual learning is part of being a developer, right? And if you aren't given the space during your work hours to do that, then it's really hard to keep up, especially if you have a family. So I would, in the job search, I would emphasize looking for places that give you space to grow, time for that. Or they say, yeah, if you need to spend a few hours sometime to learn a new tech for this new feature, then you can do that. And I would also say that you should respect your personal physical limits. You are a human. If you are listening to me, you are a human. You are not a robot. I know some developers like to pretend that they are robots, but you need sleep, you need water, you need nutrition, and there is a minimum and an optimal amount for each of these things, and make sure you get the minimum, strive for the optimum, and prioritize that, because otherwise you will burn out and then get nothing done. Instead of being the super productive person you want to be, you will be doing nothing for a while. So don't do that. Just, even keel as opposed to crash. That's my recommendation.
Yes, health is such an important thing. Like, working on health is like working on sharpening the saw only. So we shouldn't neglect this.
Yes, absolutely. And another thing is, if you can exercise, I would recommend it as a way to make yourself a better developer, because actually healthy body gives you a better brain, makes you better at your job. I always notice I go through periods where I exercise a lot and I'm better at everything, and then I run out of time or I get injured and then I stop, and then everything I'm less productive. So I would suggest exercising. I know that some people have disabilities or they just literally don't have time, and what can you do? But if that is not you, then I would recommend it. Making time for it is absolutely worth your while.
And how do you manage work-life balance?
Well, as you just heard, I didn't very well for some time, and now part of the reason I took this job was because it's like there's a lot to learn, but I don't feel compelled to be doing tutorials every evening, right? So I can work when I work, and then when I'm done, I just close my computer and I do something else. I spend time with my kids and my husband, and so yeah, that's what I would recommend. Is if you have the option of putting it away and, focusing on yourself for those remaining hours of the day, then do that, because, I guess there's maybe, 1 in 10,000 people that's actually thrives by doing nothing but working all the time. But unless you're one of those people, you need to charge yourself up with whatever it is that makes you happy, right? So I would do that. And so that's part of why I recommend trying to find a job where they support you in your learning while you're working, so that when you're done with your job, you can go, I don't know, take a run or cook a dinner or go on a date or whatever, enjoy your life.
Thank you. And connecting the dots, how important do you think the college knowledge you have collected, several years on innovation, entrepreneurship, and masters in science, etc., helped you?
Well, honestly, it did not help me that much, except for the fact that I have a better appreciation of how businesses create value. So as I'm working, I'm always thinking about my value to the place I'm working, because at the end of the day, that is how you keep your job, is by providing value. And I think before I understood how companies were structured in basic finance, I didn't quite, I don't know, I just didn't think about it. I just thought you went to work and did what you could. But it's better if you can think about how whatever it is you're doing is contributing in some way to providing value to the company. And that can be monetary, but it can also be social capital, or just improving the image of the company, or there's a lot of ways that you can do it, but it's good to just always have that in the back of your mind, I think.
And it has also been given you some experience about different fields too.
Yes, that's true.
I don't know if you have seen this, but anyone can know this seeing your LinkedIn profile, from being an assistant language teacher to getting into Google job. That's a great progressive journey. So do you have something in your mind I'm not settling for less, or do you have some range you wants to go from here to here?
No. Honestly, no. I always just sort of did what interested me at the time, and I'm more interested in being in a place where I can be learning and growing and doing something that interests me and pays the bills. And so, yeah, I think everyone's different, right? But I feel like I've become a lot happier once I've and more productive, to be honest, once I do things that I feel internally motivated to do and interest me personally. It's to thine own self be true. You just do what you're good at, what you like, and what motivates you, and then keep a positive attitude, and then the rest sort of, if you do the work, the opportunities come, I think. And that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing some of the great advices with us, and this was an amazing conversation full of learning. And I want to thank you for coming and enriching the show with your valuable experience and knowledge.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was delightful to talk to you, and I'm sure I'll see you around at the next Flutterista meeting. So.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sticking with us till the end. I tried to cover every important topic that could be valuable and serve as an asset for you. So if you find this video helpful, then make sure to share it with all your tagged friends. And do hit that like button. It really motivates me to make much more quality content for you. And if you have any doubts, suggestions or feedback, then make sure to put it in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed till now, then make sure to hit the subscribe button because I'm going to come up with amazing content on this channel. And also another amazing episode is coming on the next Monday, so stay tuned. So now I will see you in the next episode. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you.